The threat is growing from anti-transgender legislation that is being introduced and passed in various parts of the country. Many of these bills are targeting transgender youth and are attempting to limit their access to basic needed medical care. Beloved, the time is now to stand up and speak up in support of our transgender family and friends.
Would it be okay if I were to tell you that I am afraid someday, so I call you up and you call me down? Would it be okay?
Well, hello and welcome to the FreedHearts podcast. We are so glad you're here. My name is Robert Cottrell, and I'm here as always with
Susan Cottrell.
Hi there.
Hi.
Welcome back.
It's good to be here. I didn't know if you were talking to our listeners.
No, well,
welcome back to me too.
Well, yeah, welcome back to you too, and you two out there. We're so glad. Again, thanks for continuing to listen to us. We ask you to. This is an episode we'd like to ask you to share this episode with someone you know who you think has a heart for this. Maybe someone you know of influence. This is an important episode. And connect with us if you have any questions or anything. All of that is at FreedHearts.org. I do want to talk for just a moment before we move on to this episode. As far as what's next, we've taken a couple weeks of a break here after our wonderful 100th episode with our daughter Hannah. So what's next in the coming weeks? We have some really cool stuff. We're going to talk about free will. Woo. We're going to talk about the devil. Let's do sound effects for everyone. You ready? Okay. We're going to talk about free will.
Ooh.
We're going to talk about the devil. We're going to talk about a parent's desire for a child to change. We're going to talk about how sick has toxic religion made us. And we're going to talk about all those wonderful friends who just trying to save and change us.
I had a symbol for that one. I didn't have a word, a sound.
Yeah, okay.
Just kidding.
And that's why we don't do video.
Just kidding.
No, yeah. I know. So those are coming up in the next few weeks. But today, again, over the past couple of weeks, we have taken a break from the podcast as from new episodes of the podcast, and we have shared a few of our previous episodes specifically related to the transgender community, as well as a few new blog posts. If you don't read our blog, you can do that. You can find all of that at freedhearts.org or on our social media, especially Facebook. We always have links and posts for them there.
Yeah.
So as we gear back up with our regular weekly episodes here on the FreedHearts podcast, we wanted to begin by discussing why we believe it is so important to support the transgender community.
Yeah. And I have to say here that this is personal for us.
Yeah.
That we have a gender non-binary child and their transgender spouse. And it's personal for many of you too. And let me say that just as a human community that's related to each other, it really should be personal to all of us. Because this is really a human issue here. Right.
If they can do this to one group of people, they can do this to any group of people.
That's right. And then they've done it over history.
Yeah.
And we all have a transgender person we know that's in our lives, or that we don't know is in our lives. But transgender is everywhere. And we need to be human to them. So the time is right now to stand up and speak loudly and boldly.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And why right now? Why right now? Why is it so important now? Well, it's important because of the growing current threat of these anti-trans laws and proposals that are being introduced and passed in various parts of the country. They seem to be everywhere. Now, on the opposite side of that, I will say thank you to places like Minnesota and others who have made their states safe havens. But we have to watch for federal laws to counter that, so be on the lookout for that. But many of these bills are targeting transgender youth.
Yes.
And are attempting to limit their access to basic, needed, critical medical care.
Right. Medical care. It's no longer between them and their doctor and their parents as appropriate, but legislators now deciding medical care for our youth.
Oh, geez.
It's crazy. This legislation is attempting to limit access to medical care for transgender youth. We're talking about basic gender-affirming hormone therapy, which is a crucial component of many transgender individuals' health care. Critical. They're not them without their hormone therapy. And these bills are not based on medical evidence.
Not at all.
None. They're based on politics. And they could have severe consequences for the mental and physical health of transgender youth.
Let me, yeah, go ahead.
Let me just say,
You got your finger up. Hang on.
think about any med that you are on or someone in your family is on, and it's indispensable to their safety and their health and well-being. And now that has been taken from the doctor's purview and put in the purview of legislators. You would be beside yourself at the injustice.
Yep.
And that's what's happening here.
And I want to be clear about something here. Every medical organization and association opposes these laws.
Yes.
Every single one.
Yes.
This
laws, is not up for debate.
These laws are not based on medical evidence. The things you hear about, the hormone therapy, that's the effects will be irreversible. No, what the problem is if your child, and again, listen, I know I'm preaching to the choir. So we want parents to listen to their transgender children. If your child is expressing these kind of things to you, the very best thing you can do for their health, physical and mental, is to delay. If you're not sure if they're working through it, whatever it is, delay the onslaught of
unwanted puberty.
That's
wrong.
Exactly
gender.
Right. Because if you wait till after that, it's so much more difficult and so much more complicated.
Yes. And because we're just talking about hormone blockers. They just delay puberty. They don't stop it. They don't end it. They don't ruin their future. They're just pausing it. And let me tell you that elite gymnasts, take hormone blockers to forestall their periods so that can happen a little later after they're in these critical years of gymnastics that are only so long. So,
and we're not medical experts either.
No.
But again, I stand with them. They all agree. Every association, every organization says these laws, these attempts to block this access to basic medical care is not the right move.
Right. And it's essential to oppose these bills and advocate for the rights of transgender people, especially those who are most vulnerable.
The least of these.
The least of these.
Sound familiar out there? That it's crucial to understand and stand up and speak out right now against the threat of these anti-transgender laws and to support the transgender community. This is a fight for their basic human rights and protections. And it is moving fast and furious in the states that are controlled by one particular party that is anti-transgender on this. And we don't know where that's going, if it's going into federal or not, but it's moving fast. So please get plugged in and get active. You can do that through organizations like HRC in your area, even PFLAG in your area. The local pride organizations will know how to get involved there wherever you are. So again, let's talk a bit more as far as overall, why our overall support of the transgender community is so important.
Yeah, I mean, transgender people have been marginalized and misunderstood for a very long time over history. And there are so many challenges to being transgender that are unique to their experiences. And supporting them is essential for their health and well-being, their physical and mental health and well-being, and also for society as a whole.
Yeah.
Who do we want to be as a society?
That's right. Well, I mean, in a future episode, we talk about this a lot, about things that in the past were so clearly intolerable.
Right.
The hate and these kind of things now have become not just normalized, but we're electing officials who stand on those things. So,
Yes.
so yeah, this is best for our society as a whole. I'm sorry, did you have something?
I do. I want to say, I just feel moved right this moment to say, if you are transgender, we are not trying to scare you. We don't want you to panic. And I think that is the goal of we know the goal of this legislation is to make you disappear and erase you from the world. And so I'm telling you not to panic, but
Well, I think they're scared already.
I know you're scared.
But you're also not alone here.
You're not
too.
alone, and there are people fighting for you. This may sound a little bit different, so you can stop me if you want, Rob. But I remember a story, and I wish I had it more clearly in my head, but it's about Marilyn Monroe, and she was put for a time. I really admire her, what she came through. So many ways she fought for her own life, but she was put in a mental institution for a time. And when she realized what had been done to her, I don't remember who did it, but she was like, oh my God, her biggest thing was, I have got to get out of here. And what she had to do, I mean, you get in those places and whatever you say, they say, oh, well, that's because you're mental. It's a catch-22. And she had to rally all of her mental and emotional well-being to be able to communicate what's happened and why it needs to change. And she was the only one who could advocate for herself from within that institution.
Mm.
And she successfully got herself out. But I say that to say I empathize with the terror that you feel, that what is happening to us. But I want to encourage you that you're not alone, even if you feel alone. There are many people fighting on your behalf against this kind of legislation and doing what we can, and to be coalesced as a group is really empowering.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our two trans kids, kid and their spouse, went to a trans weekend this weekend conference, and it was so empowering to them just to be around others they could relate to. Was so empowering.
And a bit frustrating, one of them shared, is that there's a lot of talk about what has happened in the past, but for them, not enough talk about, well, where do we go from here?
Right.
And they have shared with us that, I mean, we have known that they're afraid, they're scared,
Right.
but we really didn't know to what extent that was. And as they've shared about how they feel, about how their friends feel, it's bad out there. And I know I'm preaching to the choir a bit, but it's time for me. It's time for you, Susan. It's time for you, listener out there, to step up here and speak up loudly and boldly. And as we've shared ages ago, sometimes we stand behind our transgender family and friends and the community in support. We need to stand beside them in solidarity, and we need to stand sometimes in front of them and take the arrows that are coming their way.
Yeah.
So now's the time. I mean, one of the most significant challenges facing the transgender community is discrimination and harassment.
Yes.
They face disproportionately high levels of discrimination and violence.
Yes.
I mean, this amazed me, but according to a report by the National Center for Transgender Equality, nearly 1 in 3 transgender individuals experience some form of discrimination in the past year, and 1 in 10 were physically attacked.
Gosh.
That hurts. I mean, that stuns me.
Yes.
Yes.
Horrifying. It's horrifying. And the impact if you're not attacked, the threat that you could be at any moment is so stressful to physical and mental health.
Yeah.
And this discrimination manifests itself in many ways. I mean, from being denied employment or housing to being the victim of hate crimes. And the social stigma surrounding transgender people can also lead to a feeling of isolation and exclusion. By supporting the transgender community, we help work to address these injustices and heal the broken lives and hearts. That's our job. That's our job, everybody. Yeah. And, transgender people are at a higher risk for mental health issues. We know that, not because they're transgender, but because of what they have to navigate being transgender. And studies have shown that transgender people are much more likely to suffer from depression, anxiety, and other mental health conditions. Again, because of the world they live in, not because of who they are. And it's due to the stigma and the discrimination that they face on a daily basis.
Yep.
Microaggressions and macroaggressions on a daily basis. And then when somebody adds God to the mix, it's like putting a lit bomb inside the person to bounce around and explode. And the impact is immeasurable. So when we support our transgender friends and loved ones and work to reduce that stigma, we help improve their mental health.
Yep. Now, this next area that we're going to talk about here hits really close to home, as one of our family members also has faced huge challenges with the healthcare system. And it has caused so much stress and had a serious impact on their physical and their mental health. To watch them go through this, to even get involved to help in a way, it's maddening.
It's maddening.
And it's indefensible. The transgender community, they face significant barriers to healthcare. Many providers are not adequately trained to provide care to trans patients, and insurance often doesn't cover the cost of basic gender-affirming treatments such as hormone therapy or gender confirmation surgery. Again, this lack of access to health care can have serious consequences, like, for, including increased risks in many areas of their life.
Yeah.
Our loud, vocal, and active support of the transgender community can improve access to healthcare and ensure that these precious people have the care they need to just be healthy and happy. Why is that even a discussion? This is a basic need.
Yes.
That should be a no-brainer. But for reasons that are that have absolutely nothing to do with medical care or physical or mental health or the medical community, it's being denied, or has been denied and is increasingly trying to be more denied.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another critical reason is that our support can create greater visibility and acceptance. It's really important. And especially since many of us are still part of or still have a voice in the anti-gay Christian church, the parts that are anti-gay, anti-queer. Our voices as parents, as leaders and pastors can have a deep, broad influence. And transgender people are underrepresented in the media and public discourse.
Is there still such a thing as public discourse?
There's
anyway, sorry.
Radicalization is
Couldn't
what
help
there is.
it.
Most people have no idea of the challenges
that
transgender people face. None. They haven't lived it. They don't know it. And it's fear instead of facts. Remember the Houston transgender bathroom bill? It was just fear. It was just fear and no facts. They should have won that by a landslide. But we can lead with love and compassion and acceptance and with truth to help raise the awareness and promote understanding and inclusion. That's our job.
And all
as
this has
humans.
And all of this has a side effect. We benefit society as a whole. Transgender people bring unique perspectives and experiences to the table, which can be such a gift to us. By creating a more inclusive and welcoming environment, we foster a more diverse and vibrant society. It's more colorful. It's more beautiful. It's more diverse. It's more vibrant. Finally, supporting our transgender friends and family. The entire transgender community is important because it's good Lord, it's the right thing to do. It's simply the right thing to do. Come on. You know this. I know you know this. Your heart knows this. It's just the right thing to do.
And everybody deserves to be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of their gender identity or expression. This is part of working to create a more inclusive and accepting society where we can be free to love and be loved as we are for who we are.
Yeah.
And who doesn't want a more inclusive society? People who are already at the top of the pecking order.
Yeah.
They don't want to be leveled out.
Yeah.
But supporting the trans community is how we create a better world for all of us.
Yeah.
And that support is more vital now than ever before. And the threats are real. They are real right now, and they're growing. I don't mean to be a downer like that, but it's true.
Well, yeah, and I understand the idea of not
It's the
triggering me
truth.
downer, but
yeah.
but I think our transgender listeners will go, you know what? Hey, I'm already
already
triggered
know
by the
this.
stuff I know
Yeah.
all day. This is
Yeah.
so yeah, the threats are
Yeah.
real. They're right now and they're growing.
Yeah, and it's time to speak up, to stand up and speak up and be loud and be bold.
Yeah. There have always been and there will always be transgender people, and they have always been and will always be beloved. We love you. We'll talk to you next
We
time.
love you.
Bye.
Bye.
Would it be okay if I were to tell you that I am afraid someday? So I call you up and you call me down. Would it be okay?
You've been listening to the FreedHearts podcast. We have extensive resources and vibrant community for you at www.freedhearts.org. Just come say hello. And if you have questions or issues or comments about the podcast, things you'd like us to talk about, reach out to us at podcast@freedhearts.org. The music is provided by Hannah Cottrell, our daughter, the Grammy-nominated Saint Sinner, and you can find out more about her at heysaintsinner.com. Please share this, subscribe, and follow on your favorite platform, and thanks for listening.